Okay, I think we'll get started. Good morning. My name's Leslie. I'm one of the academic advisors in the Faculty of Science. You also have Dr. Alex LeBlanc, who's here. He's the undergrad associate head for the Department of Statistics. He's going to talk a little bit about the programs. I just want to let you know that this session is being recorded just so that we can put it on the website for students who aren't able to attend. Please feel free to use the chat function for questions. Dr. LeBlanc's presentation is kind of cut up into 4 sections, so he'll answer questions after each section. So just ask questions based on that section. Most likely, if you have a question that hasn't been in the section, it's probably coming later on. And if you do have a question about the section, if you could maybe tell us what page or give us a little bit of explanation about where the question was, that would be great. After his presentation and questions, I'm going to give a really brief spiel about Achieve and how the changes in the programs can be used in Achieve. But other than that, I'll pass it off to Dr. LeBlanc.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Welcome everyone. It's unfortunate that we can't have this meeting in person. That was the goal up front. I know I've talked about this with quite a few of you guys last winter, that we would have this session. And the plan was also to say hi to everybody. Many of you guys were in my classes last fall and winter in 24 and 3400. So although I don't see you right now in this format, thanks for being here. I'm happy that you're here, and to all the other ones that I've never met, I'm also happy you're here. Most of you would be in one of the stats programs at this point, although some of you guys were invited because you were in 2150 or 2400 last year, which could imply that you were thinking of one of the stats programs for later, so that's why you also would have been invited. So my goal today is to give you an overview of, there we go. An overview of what we've done and why we've done it, and to also get into a little bit of the details without becoming too specific. The goal is to give you an idea of how to make sense of the changes and how to understand them with the material that we've prepared for you. So 4 sections for my presentation, as I said. The first one's going to be an overview of what we've done and why we've done it. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about specific courses that are being deleted, specific courses that are being introduced, and I'm going to go into programs, really briefly give you a feeling for what we've done to each program. And then I'm going to say a few generic important ideas as to how to understand a change if you are in a transition, kind of caught in the middle of being already a stat major, and then courses that you needed to do are now deleted and you can't do them anymore. And so how to adapt to that. Of course, I should say up front that we've planned for this, and our hope and goal is to make sure that nobody gets stuck in a terrible situation. If you are in such a terrible situation, we definitely will be doing our best. Leslie and all the other advisors and myself and all the people in stats, our goal is not to overburden you with complicated issues. Our goal is to help you make sure you can complete your degree. Okay, so, the reason we went through this program change is because there were quite a few issues with the current or previous versions of our programs that, I guess, from last year. These programs are going to now be closed for admission. And so anybody who wants to declare a stat major in the fall will go under the new programs. So, but some of the issues that we had with the previous programs had to do with long time to completion. Too many students were stuck in many long strings of prerequisites that slowed their progress down. Now the program, one good thing that it had, I guess, or our programs, is what good thing they had going for them was they did offer a really solid foundational training and prepared students for grad school pretty well. So most of our honors and major would go into a grad program and be able to perform with no problem. But I guess one of the things that our programs were not doing is, or taking account of, is the fact that actually most students these days are not going into grad school after they graduate. And so how could we help make sure that these guys get the training they need. And so that's one of the big issues here. Linked to this, obviously, would be an overall feeling that perhaps there was a lack of more practical skills for our students on the applied side, and experience with software. That was a big issue. So that's something that's extremely present in the new program with the new courses that we've introduced. And then obviously linked to that, some of the more modern topics that do require a lot of or more software experience were not things that we would normally teach at the undergrad program. And some of these topics now made it into the undergrad curriculum. So that was, I guess, the overall why we wanted to make these program changes. Now, as I've said, these program changes are coming into effect this fall. So right now you can see that, so registration for you, most of you guys will start tomorrow. But you cannot take the older courses that have been deleted, and then there's probably a list of new courses that you could think of taking. It's important that you make sense of the ones that you will need to complete your degree if you are in this transition. As I said, students that will declare starting in the fall will declare under the new programs. If you're already in the program, you should be able to complete the program as you looked at it last year, except obviously some courses will have been deleted. So we have a list of substitutions that you can use to replace those courses that are not available anymore. But really, you're still looking at the program you were looking to complete. That's still your goal, except of course, some of the courses will have to be substituted, which shouldn't be too complicated as long as, of course, you pay attention to the changes that you need to make. Obviously, the advisors, myself, we will be on top of that as we get really good at getting a feeling for the whole picture, and so we can help you make sure that you don't miss anything. Now, what we've done, I guess, is perhaps what is most interesting to you guys rather than the other technicalities. Well, one thing we've done is definitely to help with the long time to completion is we've reduced the course dependencies. By that, what I mean is we used to have quite a few courses that would feed into each other and very long sequences of prerequisite courses. So we tried to break those up into shorter sequences of prerequisites with a bit more of an ability to, if you need to repeat a class, it doesn't completely slow you down by a full year. You could still be able to at least repeat one course and still be able to make the next year on time for the fall period. So we've tried to add a little bit of flexibility on that side of things that is related to prerequisites. The other thing that we have done is also add a lot of flexibility as to how you can satisfy your degree requirements. And so we reduced the list of required courses for those programs. And so we didn't reduce the number of courses you need to do in statistics to be a specialist in statistics, but what we did is we allowed you students to have a lot more flexibility in terms of which courses they want to take. And so we've reduced the number of required courses. And we've also, by adding in these new courses, we're hoping that we can offer the possibility for students to kind of build up their own profile. That is, there isn't now just one profile for a stat student graduating with an honors in stat. There are a couple of different things you could be doing, and you could have a much more theoretical profile and go, if you plan to go into a master's or in mathematics even as a grad degree, that's something you could do. But then you could also have a super applied profile and use a lot more computing courses, for instance. So these are things that are now available. And so that should also help in terms of giving you flexibility and reduce time to graduation, because you can, if certain courses just don't fit in your schedule, well, you don't have to do them and you can still graduate on time. Modernization was a big thing, as I said already. We wanted to emphasize a lot applied and computational courses, so that's something that we've done. Now, if I actually have a quick overall look at what we did to our programs. So for the honors and the major program, we changed the math courses that were required and the options in math. So what we did is we reduced the number of credit hours that were required in our degrees from the math side of things. So I think the honors students require one fewer math course and in terms of required credit hours. So we got rid of 2030 in mathematics, which was the combinatorics course. The major program has 2 fewer required math courses, but we did increase the number of optional math courses that you had to take. We also increased the list of courses you could choose from. So now essentially you still are expected to do some math courses, but you have a lot more flexibility in which courses you would like to take. There are a few new very interesting courses in math, optimization and mathematics for data science, for instance, that are going to be really interesting for people in stats. These courses are allowed as math options now, so that should be quite interesting. Another feature of the BSc Honours and Major in Statistics, that does not apply to joint programs, by the way, just for the Stat Honours and Major. You now need to do Comp 1020. So we recognize the fact that programming and software is an important thing now for statistics. So you do need to be better at it. And just one Comp 1010 we felt was not sufficient in providing students with a proper background in the theory and the important concepts of how to write good, efficient code. So 1020 is now required. We've also added a sequence of optional courses in computer science. And so what this essentially, the idea being that instead of having only math options that you had to choose from, you also now have a list of computer science options that you can choose from. You don't have to do many, actually if you don't like computer science, you could still just do 1010 and 1020 and be done. But the option is there. So for those of you who would like to have that kind of a profile after graduation, which is having more computer science courses like database management or data mining, machine learning, these are things that you can actually take now out of your computer science options. Finally, I guess another important aspect for what we did with the honors and the majors is that we now have augmented or increased the difference between the major and the honors program. So they used to be quite similar into essentially the main difference between the two was the grades you would achieve more or less, and or perhaps your full-time status. Now we've changed that, and the honors definitely has a couple more theoretical courses in it and is more similar to the previous version of the honors program in that sense, but the major is now very, very flexible. And we got even rid of the inference at the 4th year course, for instance, as a requirement for the major. So the major could now have a very, very much applied feel to it. And that's something that we thought might be interesting to many students. Obviously, nothing says you can't take the inference courses as an option. You can, but it's not required anymore. So the major is extremely flexible under the new version. The last thing I would point out is there was this area of application requirement that was a puzzle to many students. So we had that in the honors, we had that in the major. These things are gone. They were named differently under the two programs, but these things are gone. You don't need to worry about those anymore. All your electives are free electives, essentially. Now going into joint honors programs. So what we did for the joint honors, I guess mainly is we got rid of a couple of required courses that now were deleted, and we've replaced most of those by optional credit hours of statistics. So the number of courses of stats that you would have had to do did not change, but which ones you could do, now that would change. You now have a lot more flexibility in as to which courses you can decide to do to complete your degree. So it's just added flexibility under the new programs. I would point out that this year we're also starting out co-op programs in all of our joint honors programs. I know some of you guys have talked to me before about this, and you were kind of hoping that this would come on and would come live for this year. It has happened, except for the joint program with actuarial math, which we still don't have. Asper has a separate co-op program for actuarial science. I don't think right now the students in the joint stats and actuarial math program are eligible for that. But the plan is to eventually have one out of science, but it's not up and running yet. Okay, so that's the first part of my talk that I wanted to do. I can take questions if there are any. This is quite general so far. As I said, if you look at the titles I have at the top there, I'm going to get into actual courses going and coming in. and I'm going to talk about specific programs and what's going on with some of those. So I wouldn't get into these details right now, but if you have any questions about what I've mentioned so far, feel free to go ahead. No questions, I guess? Okay, then I will move forward. So here's a nice chart of the courses as to what they look like as of now, before I guess the new programs kick in. So if you've looked at your required courses, you should recognize all these numbers, probably. It's not really important what these courses are actually at this point. In blue, you have all the courses that are required in the major and the honors right now. In green, you have all the optional courses for those students. Now, the joint honors are going to have mostly the same required courses, but there's a couple of difference, probably one or two that are different. So roughly the same ideas. The black courses here that you have on the left are meant to be courses that are targeted more towards students in the minor and non-specialists. So now I'm going to flip to really give you a quick overview of what happened. I'm going to flip to another, well, the same chart, but having now, whoops. Now you can see which courses are now gone. And so those are the ones with the X's on them. They've been deleted. The courses with the orange boxes around them have been essentially replaced by something equivalent. So a new number, but really taking the place of this course in the tree. So you can see at the bottom, there are two sampling and design courses that have been deleted. The 4200, which was the second inference course, is now gone and not required. This course will become an MSc level course. And we kept all we thought was required for a fourth year undergrad student into the 4100. So 4100 is kind of similar to what it was before, but it also includes some of the 4200 material, and it also excludes some of the material that we had this afterthought that probably we could wait to the master's level for those who actually need that for grad school. And so some of the topics are now moved back there. On the left, you see the 4690. This is the multivariate analysis course that we've offered until now. This course is actually reintroduced in third year. It's going to be almost the same course. It's just that we felt that it could be done in third year. And in fact, we did have third year students in that class. And so now it's going to be in third year. I guess the one course that's a little bit tricky is this 3480, which is right in the middle of the tree. That's been deleted, and we don't have anything to replace it. But as you will see, we've introduced a new course, number 2300, that we will consider as an equivalent for it. So even though I don't have the orange box around it to imply that we have a replacement, I guess I should have the cross and the orange box around that one, because we have another course that's we will use it as an equivalent, although it isn't equivalent. And so as you will see, I'm going to get into the replacement and substitutions. Those two courses we will allow substitution. So, so this is what's going and what's being changed. We are also adding a bunch of courses that I don't have showing on this here. So, so this is a list of courses as to, on the left, what's being deleted. And it doesn't include everything. There's a few courses that are less important that are not on here. And on the right, the substitution for it, the replacement, essentially. So for instance, if you look at 3050, 3050 was offered every winter, and its prereq was 3400. Well, 3050 is still around under a new name and a new number, but it won't be very different. So Stat 3030, and that Stat 3030 will actually play the same role. So that brings up an interesting question. Many of you guys might wonder why we had to use a new number. Well, the thing is, as soon as you want to modify a course for its prereqs or for its title, you actually have to create a new course for a bunch of administrative reasons. This is the way they do it. And so whenever we have something like this, there could be a couple of reasons. The course could be very different in content. That's not the case here. or the course could, like in this case, we wanted it to have a nicer title. So that's the main reason why we changed it. So in this case, so now some of those are actually quite different. And when there's an important difference in terms of topics, coverage of topics, then we do have to have a new course as well. That makes sense. That would be the case, for instance, for 3400. So 3400 has been deleted. It's been replaced by 2800, which will play more or less the same role, except now the breakdown of topics between 2400 and 2800 will be a bit different. And so 2400 has also changed, but it's probably 70% similar to what it was before, with a 30% difference. That was enough of similarity to keep the same course title and number. But 2800 is very different. And so that's why this course has a new number. It's now numbered in second year, suggesting that students should take it in second year, but it can actually be done in third year as well, in first term of third year, and that should not slow you down significantly. So this 3480, as you see here, it doesn't really have an actual replacement, as I say on this list, although the 2300, which has been introduced, can be used as a substitute. It's not an equivalent course, so that's why it's a little bit different. 3800 has been deleted and replaced by 3100. To be fair, that is kind of like the 3480. The 3100 will be different from 3800, but they have been processed in such a way that they're going to be considered equivalent in terms of prerequisites and everything. 4200 hasn't been replaced. The reason I have this NE 4000 level course is because if you need 4200 to complete your degree, well, you can't do it anymore because it's been deleted. So we will allow you to hold any other 4000 level course instead in its place. So that's why I have that here. 4580 and 90 have been deleted. They don't have a replacement, but these were optional courses anyways, and so it doesn't really matter. As I said, multivariate analysis is replaced by a third-year course. 4690 was not required anywhere. Now 3690 is a prerequisite to some other courses. That's another reason why we wanted it in third year, so that it's done before students get in fourth year. As for the new courses, these are going to be the important new courses that are not related to what we've had before. So this 2300 is a second year course, Principles of Data Collection. It's going to be essentially ideas and principles that are important to understand what good data is, and pushes the analysis of data a bit further than what you would have done in 1150 or 1000, 2000. So essentially, for those of you who might know what that means, this course is kind of half design of experiment and quality of good data and randomizations and things like that, and half sampling theory. So that's a very generic statement, but how do you, use ideas that are important like stratification and clustering when you want to get good data? And so the course is meant to be quite applied and not very theoretical. So that should be an interesting course. It has a very low prerequisite of 1150. So this course will be for honors and majors in most of our programs, although some of the joint honors do not require this course. And it would also probably be popular with students that are in the minor. Now, 3150 statistical computing is a follow-up to 2150, really is what it is. It's required in, I think, all of our programs now. 3550, this nonlinear regression models, is a follow-up to 3450, which is linear models. So, and 3450 is the replacement for 3470, which was around, and this is really the same course, but new name and new number, but really the same course, more or less. So this is a brand new course, this 3550. It's meant really to be a winter term third year course. And it takes the place of 3480 in our tree, but it is quite different from it. Then we have these two new courses at the fourth year, Bayesian analysis and computing, and then statistical learning. As you can see, they have quite a few prerequisites, these courses. They're meant to be, difficult senior courses. Like this is the climax of whatever you learn up to that point. This is where you really see the super fancy stuff. They're both optional courses. You don't have to do them, but they're going to be quite interesting and challenging for sure. As you can see, as I said, they have quite a few prerequisites, so you can expect them to be, high level. But I think these are really our coolest addition to the new programs. These two courses, as I said, they're not required in any program. but they're definitely two courses we're very happy to be able to introduce. They will be usable optional credits in any of our programs. So that's the new tree. Again, I guess probably you don't need to worry too much about the numbers at this point. This new tree, we will post it on our website shortly. I'm working with Leah and Rosa in the stats office to make it look good, and we're going to have it on our webpage, in the stat department webpage, so you can have another look at it if you need later. It has all the prerequisites, the co-requisites that are dashed lines, and then the blue courses are required in the major in statistics. The two orange ones are the added ons for the honors in statistics. The joint programs are not showing here, but they're very similar to the honors program as to what they need. Usually it's plus or minus one course. So that kind of works nicely. If you see on the left, we now have a stat 4000 that's been added, but that's not for you guys. It's for minors really, but an upper level modeling course for non-majors. Now, the other thing I have on there is this purple group of courses, these 5 courses. So some of you will have heard me talk about the data science program that's coming. It's been delayed. It's not coming in this year. It's expected to start next year. So one of the things is the data science program, if you are interested in it, it's more of a blend of a more evenly matched blend of math, stat, and CS. And so there's a lot less statistics, for instance, in the data science program than if you are a stat major and what you're going to do as a stat major. But these 5 courses that are inside that purple region there, they are the data science core. So data scientists will have to do these courses as well. So if you're not sure if you want to go into data science, well, that could be a good idea to make sure that you complete these courses this year, so you're ready to go in like as a more mature student when the program starts, if that's something you're interested in. Okay, that concludes the second part of my presentation. So are there any questions at this point? Oh. Okay, so far, so I've had from Chris an interesting question that I will reply to outside of this this context. If you want to email me with your question, I'll be happy to reply to it. It doesn't really apply to what we're talking about here, but it's a good question about grad courses. I will answer that for sure through email if you want to email me. And then I have a question from Yan Meng. About if you've declared your program already and what to do with that. So this is coming. So I'm not going to answer that right away, but that's the next part, addressing the changes and then what to do if you're already in the program and you're not sure how to complete your requirements. So this is coming. Are there any other questions? Oh, Tristan had a question. Are these changes updated in UM Achieve audits? Leslie will address that at the end of our meeting.
Yes, Tristan also messaged me, so I told him to hold on to the end and we'll talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. So that's also coming. Very valid question. We'll answer it shortly, depending on how long I talk. Are there any other questions? No? Okay, then. So program changes. So I'm going to show you at a glance what we've done, so you have a feeling for what's going on. So I'm going to start with the honors and statistics. So this is the table as you would have seen it before in the calendar, if you've looked at that at this point. So that was last year's table for required courses. So I've reproduced the table here, except I didn't go into the details for the optional courses. You can see down there, at the bottom of that table there, that I've kind of lumped everything together, so many optional credits there and there. You can see that the previous numbers and the new numbers, so the previous numbers, like 24 credit hours of optional stat courses with at least 15 at the 4000 level. So that was 15 and 9 before, now it's 24 and 15. So we've increased the number of optional credit hours significantly. But if you look at what we deleted, you can see that in year 4, we deleted 3 courses that are not required anymore in the honors. So actually now in year 4, there's only 1 required course for an honors student. It's 4,100. So they're expected, according to this, they're expected to take another 5 4,000 level courses, but they can take any one they want among anything that we offer and that are in this list of approved. The list is in the calendar, the list of approved optional, which is essentially everything we teach, except for a couple of courses that we think are really for non-majors. So as I said, you can see in year 2 that the 2030 has been deleted. We don't require that anymore. You can see the 2,800 now showing up. That's really the replacement for 3,400. So 2,800 is now suggested in year 2. In year 3, you see we have 5 courses that are required. Essentially, we've deleted 5. Of the 5 that are deleted, the 3,400 has moved to year 2. The other 4 have had a replacement in this. And then there we've added the 3,150, which is the computing course. So the third year is the same in terms of there's 5 courses that are required, except the breakup is a little bit different. And the 3,150, for instance, is a computing course. 3,100 is a new, more applied inference course. And then 3,690 is very applied, it's multivariate analysis. So the third year is actually a little bit less technical than it was before from that standpoint. Now, if you go over years 1 and 2, you can see that we do require the Comp 1020. As we said, it's recommended that you do it in years 1 or 2. You could still do it later because it's not a prereq to anything else in the program. We've also added Stat 2300. We put it there because it's actually possible to do it in second term if you do 1150 in first term. That's why it shows up there. So if you are already in third year and you have not done 2300, well, that's okay. You can still do it even if in your third year. So that's the thing about these charts. I get this question often. What happens if I didn't complete the course in the right year? Well, that's a non-issue for us because the way the chart is constructed, that's just one suggested optimal way to complete the course requirements. It's because it's natural to do it this way. But it's fine. They don't have to do anything. Nothing has to be done in the years that they've been assigned to. This is just to help students kind of figure out the best approach. Now, the other thing is you can see I have in first and second year 6 credit hours of optional math and or comp courses. So this is essentially any choice of math and computer science will satisfy this. So you could do 2 math, 2 computer science, 1 of each. That's fine. And then if you go into third and fourth year, have 6 credit hours of optional math, comp, and or stat courses. Well, our goal actually at first was to force people to do more math and comp, but then we wanted to give more flexibility to students. We said, well, you know what? If you want to do actually even more stat that is really required, you could actually do these other 6 credit hours as stat courses. So this group of 6 credit hours there is any combination of math, comp, and stat, all of one split across however you want is okay. The only thing, of course, is if you do 6 of stat, they can't count elsewhere. So they can't double count into the other group, of course, right? And everything that's labeled electives here, everything that's labeled electives would be free electives. So somebody spoke out. If you have a question, I would suggest that I would ask that you wait just after I've presented these charts, and then I'm going to be happy to go over that and answer whatever you are thinking about. Okay. So that's for the honors. Now, anything in blue is new. Anything crossed off was a requirement and has been changed. I think this should be easy to read. So if you started the program before the new programs are kicking in the fall, essentially anything in blue here you can ignore. Anything that's been crossed off, that's actually what you have to do, right? So you can see both programs at a glance here. So here's for the major. As I said, the major is going to be quite similar to the honors, although now we added quite a lot of flexibility in it. So you can see that, for instance, there's 1 fewer required third year course. Nothing is required in fourth year. We got rid of 2030, 2080, and so 2150 has been replaced by 2720, which many of you are already doing anyways. But we do not require the analysis course anymore. I know some students will be very happy to see this. So it's not required in the major anymore. The structure is very similar, except more options essentially, and fewer required 4,000 level courses. But other than that, it's very, very similar to what we did with the honors. So I'm not going to say more. Now, if you look at specific joint programs, for instance, this is the joint program with actuarial math, and it's very similar with the other joint programs. You can see here, we did not change for the actuaries any of the ACT or econ or accounting courses. This has not been touched. So all of your requirements from your other discipline, unchanged. What we did is we just tweaked the stat courses in the same way we did for other programs. So in this case, we deleted the same 3 fourth-year courses that we deleted in this regular honors for stat. And we replaced them, as you can see, by 9 credit hours of stat options. So anything will go, although there are some caveats. You need so many credit hours at this level and so on. That's in the calendar. You can have a look at that. In third year, similar. Second year, also kind of the same. You can see the number of electives changed a little bit. That's to account for new courses coming in and making sure that the total number of credit hours did not change for your stat requirements. What changed is how you can satisfy the credit hour requirements for each, the courses that are required and the ones that are optional. So other than that, this program did not really change much. Same for the honors with mathematics. The math courses have not changed. It's only the stat courses that have changed. Now, what does change also is in third year, which courses are required. For instance, in the math degree, we don't require 3690 as a required course, which is required in the regular honors. You could see in the actuarial math, we don't also require even the computing course, the 3150. There is a course kind of along those lines already offered by ASPER from what I understand. So 3150, you could do it, but it would be a part of your options. I mean, I would strongly recommend that you do it, but it's not required. And then if we go into computer science, same stuff. I would add that computer Comp 2190 has been taken out of there. That's not our doing. The computer scientists are deleting this course. So that turns into an extra 3 credit hours of electives for you in this program. But other than that, this is just adapting to the changes. And the same with economics, the joint program with economics, there is another twist, is that Math 2140, I know many of you guys actually will be interested in this. This was the math modeling course, very popular option for stat students. This course has been killed, but it actually is been replaced by 3610, sorry, which is here. So this 3610 is really the replacement for 2140. I think they have slightly higher prerequisites. They also want more mature students in this course. That's why they did this. But my understanding is for stat students, that's not going to be an issue. It's other students that would get into 2140 that would get in trouble. And so I think that this is still, well, obviously the course is still required for the joint honors with economics, but even for all the other stat students that like this option, it's still a totally good and viable option for you guys. Except now it's a third year course. And so we've also taken out of this program the Math 2030 and 3360, which were the 2 combinatorics courses that were required. We felt that this was kind of a little bit outdated, and we've added the computing course instead and a bunch of other options for the students in this program. So I will also add that these tables will be posted on the STAT website. And so you can actually have a look at them. I've shared them with Leslie and with the other advisors. They have a PDF file. It's a 2-page file with exactly this on there, the crossed off courses and the other ones in blue. So when you have a look at it, you can really at a glance get a good feeling for what the changes are. So if you are in a program, you're going to see what's expected in the new program, right? So I'm going to stop here as to just how the programs changed. And what is still left in the last part of my presentation is what to do if you're already in the program and things are changing. So that's the last part. I'm going to talk about that shortly. So I'll take questions. Okay, Grace asked a few questions about being already in the programs and things are changing. I'm going to address that shortly. So ask again at the end if I haven't addressed your question. Chris is asking about co-op courses. The co-op course, the structure for co-op hasn't changed very much. The only difference is that the courses you need to enter the co-op program are different now. And it's actually easier to enter co-op earlier. So it used to be that to enter co-op, you needed 3480. And that's second term, third year. So that would make it impossible for a stat student in the co-op program to enter co-op until that summer after third year, which is a little bit late. So now to enter the program, you will be able to do that if you have the 2300 and 3450. So at the end of the fall term, you will be able to enter the co-op program already officially, meaning you could have your first work term in that winter there in third year. That's a new thing that we've also built in. Now to enter I don't know of all the details, but this is, I know you need to contact the co-op people, I think. I'm sure Leslie actually knows more than me. Perhaps you can answer that, like what to do to enter co-op.
So for co-op, normally applications are in the winter term. So you do have to apply and be accepted for co-op. I believe that as long as you've finished the courses before you accept your first co-op term, so you could apply, let's say, winter 2021, be accepted, and still take those 2300, 3450 in the fall term, and then you get your co-op in the winter term. But I would still recommend talking to co-op just because it is a little bit of a new change for them, just to make sure that they're still doing that for stats, that you can apply, be accepted, and finish the courses before you officially get your first one.
So Science Co-op, the link is on this Faculty of Science website, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, okay, hopefully that answers that question. Thank you, Leslie. Transferring from, so Alex, yeah, I don't, so your questions are about the transfer into a program and how, so good questions, I would say, but I'm thinking you should talk to an advisor privately for this. This is really about the technicality of transferring and which are the best courses and so on. I mean, I guess I could take a few seconds at the end to highlight which courses I think are the best, but they're all good. I'm biased. I worked on creating those courses, so not what you want to hear, I think. Okay, and then Lee. Okay, so 6 credit hours of optional math courses. So we have that in the previous programs, and we also have that under the new programs. So you will have to look. So the question, I guess, is how do you choose those credit hours of optional courses? So that's a good question. Under both the old program and the new programs, we have lists of courses that we pre-approve to fill this role. So the lists are a bit different. There was the list for the previous program. Now there's the updated list for the new program. So any course in this list you can use to satisfy this optional math credits, let's say. So we also have a list for computer science and we have a list for statistics. So any optional credit hours needs to come from this list. Now, I guess it could be that you are interested in a math course that's not in the list. Well, in that case, you could contact us, and on case-by-case basis, we could definitely approve some of them that might be outside the list. So the one thing I would point out is that because of the newer list and the old list is much shorter, people that are already in the program, if they want to complete a math option from the new list, we will clearly accept it under the old program. So for instance, math for data science, math 2740, I believe. This is in the new list. It didn't show in the old list, of course, because the course did not exist before. But if you want to do this course and count it towards your 6 credit hours of math options, and you're still working from the previous program, this will be allowed for sure, guaranteed. You will need to talk to an advisor so they can actually throw that into the UMHE for you or whatever, but we will agree to that for sure. So I'm hoping that answers your question. So you had a question about 2720. Well, 2720 is not an option, it's required. So 2720, you can use it to replace the 2150 if that's your requirement. So like here, as what I have on there, the joint honors with economics, it requires 2150, but you see that there's this, this little exponent 1 there, footnote. You are allowed to substitute that for 2720 if you want. So if you have 2720, that's where it would go. Substituting comp 1020 for math 2030, I don't think that would be allowed at this point. So that's a question I got from a student. So math options are meant to be math options, and comp 1020 is not in the list of computer science options because it's now required and it's a first-year course. So we would not allow a first-year course to play that role, essentially, is what I'm saying. And then, so another question that comes from N, very creative name. So what happens, what's the deal with 2800 and 3400, I guess is the question. So I will take a second to address that. I think it's important. So from this point on, 3400 will not be offered. 2800 will be offered. So if you need 3400 for your degree, you will do 2800 instead. And that's that, direct substitution, pre-approved, no problem. Now, if you already have 2400 done, then this fall you're going to be going into 2800 instead of 3400. Now, the new 2800 will be different, and will be assuming that you're going to come in with the new 2400. Now, this fall, however, is the time to take 2800 if you did 2400 last year, because the 2800 this fall will be taught in a way that accounts for the fact that all the students coming in have the older version of 2400. So if you're going for 3400 next year, which is going to be replaced by 2800, you want to do that in the fall. That's my recommendation. Now, if you need 2800 and you haven't done 2400, yeah, you don't need to worry about it. You do 2400 in the fall and 2800 this winter or next year in the fall. It's offered every term, so that shouldn't be a problem. So I'm hoping I answered your question. So according to the table, the total credit hours for math and comp should be 9 plus 6. Does that make sense? I guess you are referring to, I'm going to go back to the major program. So you see 6 on this side and 9 on this side. I would point out that they're not quite the same. That's not how they read. So on this side, it's 6 of math and or computer science. And on this side is 9 of any of the 3. So what that could mean is you could have 6 math and 3, so 6 credit hours of math on this side, on the left side, and 9 credit hour of stats on the right side, and actually have no more computer science courses if you don't want to do any, okay? So really on the left it is 6 of any combination of math and computer science, and on the right it's 9 of any combination of math, computer science, and stat, okay? And so that does give you a lot of flexibility, and you could go for up to the 15 credit hours all in computer science if you want. That's all up to you, okay? So I'm hoping that answers your question. Okay, the last question I got from Xiaozi, I am hoping I'm pronouncing your name right, is also something I'm going to be addressing now. So about the transition. So I'm not going to answer it right now. I'm going to wait a few minutes. So are there any other questions at this point? I have no clue how we're doing on time.
About 10 to 12.
Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna try and be done shortly. Okay, so I'm gonna go then into the final part of my presentation. It should be short. That was the plan, is to summarize everything. So what lies ahead and how do you complete your degree? So if you've not declared your major yet, and you're going to declare a major in stat or in one of the joint programs, well, there's no problem for you really. You're just going to declare the major under the new program. So that will be the list of courses that you will have to complete. Now, of course, you might have done already some courses that will now be deleted. You will be able to use those towards your program for sure. We're not going to, block you from using them. Okay. So to know how to use those courses, you would look at the list of substitutions that I gave before. So for instance, if you haven't declared a stat major yet, but you already have done 2400 and 3400, and now you go into stats in the fall. 3400 is not a thing on the list for stats. 2800 is. Well, you will be able to use 3400 in year of 2800, no problem. That's, of course. Okay. So if you go into the new program with old courses, you can use them to substitute for options or required courses, for sure, guaranteed. You're not going to be losing the credits that you did. Okay. Now, the more tricky situation is the other one. So if you've declared your major already, and now you wonder what to do. Well, the way we look at this is we want to help you as much as we can and make it as easy as possible. So, and when I say declaring your major, I mean major in statistics or honors in statistics or any of the joint honors programs. So then you will have a choice. You can decide to graduate under the program requirements for the programs that you declared when you declared it. Or you can just switch to the new program, so to speak. You're not going to, in the books, actually change program, but it'll be in the end more or less the same. You could decide to graduate under the list of new requirements. So really, you can think about it this way. You will have two checklists to look at, and you get to pick which one you want to use for graduation. So you can use the checklist that you were looking at all the way up to now and still go with that, or you can go with the new checklist, which is the new program. Of course, if you go with the new checklist, well, you need to do Comp 1020, for instance. That's required in the new program. So that may be something, if you don't like computer science courses, maybe you'd rather stick with what you had. Okay, that's fine. Then you're looking at the previous checklist. Now, in the previous checklist, you had courses that have been deleted. Well, you just use the pre-approved substitutions for those, and that will be fine. Okay? And so really, it's a matter of you going through the two checklists. There are some differences. It may be that we don't know yet if many students will want to switch over to the new checklist. I kind of expect it because there's so much more flexibility there. But for some students, it might not be an interesting option. So you can stick with what you had and just make sure that you can figure out what the proper substitutions are going to be. So that's how we're going to handle that. So what I would obviously suggest is that you need to take some time to familiarize yourself with what's going on here. If you don't, and nothing will be clear. So you need to figure out a transition plan. You will need to talk to an advisor. Unfortunately, even though I would like to talk to each one of you individually, I won't be able to do that. I won't have enough time. But we have a team of advisors that are very good and know what's going on. They will be able to help you. And they will be also able to confirm that if you think of a transition plan, that this is a good transition plan. So that all the substitutions you think you can make, you want to double check that they're good. So one way to go will be to use UMHE, for instance, right? So further information that's going to be available. So the U of M online academic calendar, I know many students don't even know where that is. So on the U of M main page, you go under students and then program, courses and programs, and then you can get to the online academic calendar. And if you do that, you're going to see exactly what are the course requirements and everything. It's all in there, of course. That's the official document. Now, we've also prepared a transition plan document, which has all the details. It's a little bit long. It's perhaps confusing, but it's going to be available on the STAT website. I've also prepared reference charts, which what these are, I talked about them earlier a little bit. They are those tables that I showed you more or less with the blue, the courses highlighted in blue and the courses crossed off, so that everything is very clear as to what's changing and how you can satisfy either sets of degree requirements. I'm going to finish with an interesting announcement. That'll be my last thing. So we just approved to create a new 4,000 level course in stats, which is called Honours Thesis in Statistics. So that's really a research project. That's going to be something that any student in any honors or joint honors program will be able to complete. And that will count for 6 credit hours. So if you decide to do this research project as a course during the regular year, that's going to count towards 6 credit hours. We haven't had that. Many of the science departments have had that, and it's been very successful. That's a way to get students involved in research when they're in their 4th year for senior students. And it's very popular in some departments. It's actually required in some science departments as well. For us, it's just going to be optional, but that's going to be an option that's going to be around. And so this is not available this year, but it will become available next year. That's it for me for now. So I can take other questions if there are still any questions. So I had a few people that in questions that I specifically said I would hopefully answer at the end. I'm thinking I have answered them at this point, but if not, now would be the time. I don't see anything new here.
I just had a question about how you can get in touch with one of the science advisors. The best thing to do is to send us an email. I can put, or maybe Ashley could put the email in the chat for everybody. We are about 10 business days behind on answering emails, so it is a little bit of a wait to talk to somebody. But the best thing to do is to send us an email. And please include all of your specific questions. And then based on your questions, we'll decide if we need to set up an appointment with you through Zoom or over the phone or Skype, or if we can just answer the questions through email.
I guess I would point out that related to this, the key thing is to know what to register for in the fall. But any more complicated issues with what you could do for your program, that could come also during the fall term, where these guys are a bit less busy than now. So so that would work as well, as long as you make sure you have the right courses for the fall. So that's step 1, right? So I just saw a question about the transition plan being already. It's not already on the website, and those charts are not already on our website. They're kind of ready to go. We're just tweaking the looks of the pages before we throw them on and put them live. So they're not live yet, but they will be very shortly. Okay, another relevant question that I've had a couple times. So 3150 is a prerequisite for 4150 and 4250. So the question is, do I need 3150 to get into those courses? The answer is yes, you do. Now, 3150 is not required under the old program, of course, but it's allowed as an option. So it counts as a 3000 level option for sure. And so there are also other ways that we can make this course for sure count towards your credit hours, towards your degree. So even though perhaps you feel you're in a position where you don't need another 3000 stat course, it shouldn't be wasted away. It will count. We'll make sure we find the right way, but the obvious easy way is to count it as one of these optional stat credit hours. And so that should be fine. But yes, it is required for 4150 and 4250 because these two courses require significant computing knowledge. And so in 3150, that's really where we're going to push the computing knowledge and R programming. Actually, 3150 is a really, really nice, good new addition to our program. It's been required for quite a few years now. Some of you might know we've had this course taught a couple years in a row. I taught it a couple years in a row under a 4000 level number. 4600 was the number. That's a special topics course. So that's the only way we could teach it. So we taught it under that number, but it was really more like a 3rd year course. We taught that for 3 years in a row, and the response from the students was really, really good. So now it's actually officially in our program, and it's a really important part of our new program. The other thing is, taking this class, you'll become fluent in R. And being fluent in R, well, fluent may be pushing it a little bit, but close to getting fluent with R. Being fluent in R is really a super important thing now if you're going to go and do research in statistics, but also if you're going to enter the workforce after you graduate. That's a really important aspect, because it was always kind of an issue. Students graduating with not a really good knowledge of any software, they were at a disadvantage compared to other applicants for jobs. But now I don't think it's a disadvantage anymore. I think that if you go out and you really know nothing about programming and computing, it's going to be hard to find a good job. You're going to find one, but it's going to be the boring one that no one else wants, not the good one. All the good ones now require some knowledge of computing, and R programming is everywhere now. So that's really one good thing to be familiar with. So not only would it be required for those two courses, the 3150, but it's a really strong suggestion. You should try to take this course before you graduate, even if you don't have to. I think it's a really, really good opportunity. And if it helped, I would add that the guy who teaches the course, Max Turgeon, is one of our new faculties. He's a really nice guy, and he's really, really good in terms of data science, and high dimensional data is his specialty. So that's really right up his area. The course will be fantastic, I'm sure. And he's an expert in programming. And so it will be very, very interesting. I can guarantee that. Are there any other questions?
I actually have a question that I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
So the two math courses that were deleted from the major, the 2030 and the 2080,
Yep.
if a student has already declared the major, but they haven't done those courses,
Yes.
do they still need to do them, or can they be substituted with other courses?
That's a very good question. I would be inclined to think that they should do them, but that's the easy way. If they do them, then it's going to work. These courses are still around, right? They're not being deleted. It's just we don't require them anymore. But I would need confirmation from my department. But I'm thinking that the reason we took them out is because we felt that they were interesting options, no more. And there are actually more interesting options. So if a student came in with a plan to replace that by one of those more interesting options, I'm thinking we would approve that.
Okay, so it could be like other stats courses, or like some of the math courses from the options list, or
Yes,
something
I
like
would
that?
think I would not replace that with a stat option, but I would replace it with another math option with
another math one.
easily,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, great. And so if we have students, I guess students could contact an advisor, and then an advisor could contact you if
Yes.
they wanted to look
Yep.
at doing that. Okay.
Definitely. We would
Thank you.
seriously consider that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, a good question from Andrea. When we designed these programs, did we communicate with employers in the industry to ensure that what is required in these programs is relevant to what employers are looking for? We did not have an actual like roundtable kind of thing where we invited people to talk to them. And this idea came to us actually much later, and it's a very good suggestion. Unfortunately, it wasn't on our radar when we did the bulk of the work. This is a question we had much later when we met with some of the people in the higher end administration. And it's kind of too bad we didn't. However, the programs did come from a major program review. So the need for new programs and a lot of some of the meat that's in the new programs was put together by following the recommendations of a program review committee that was put together. And that program review committee included a bunch of people that are experts in the field and academics from other departments from other major universities. And so they were all people with knowledge. And so I guess even though we did not bring in people from the industry, we did have quite a few people that were very familiar with the up to date and modern important things in statistics. And so that was part of what we did when we created the new programs. But we did not sit down with like Winnipeg businesses, for instance. We did talk to some of them. What's the right word? Not specifically with that purpose in mind, but not before we created the program. But that has been on our radar. Like we did know some of the things that we thought were important because we have had contacts with other people, but we didn't go through this kind of formal process. One of the other things, though, is with the new programs, is with this added flexibility, is so we have these topics courses and science topics courses. So this year, there's also a Science 2000 course that's offered, that's new, on data science. So these courses, these topics courses, we can actually just create new ones anytime we need to. So if new topics become important in the area, it's easy for us to introduce a course informally through this topics course and offer it. And then students can benefit from that. That's how we taught computing, as I was saying earlier, a couple of times, 3 times actually, under this topics and statistics course. So we did not have a formal course created for it, but we felt this was important. So we taught the course as a topics course. Then now the course is becoming an official course for the program. Our goal in the long run is to add a lot more new courses, and not to have every year being the same in terms of course offerings, but have a lot more optional courses that students can pick from, and then offer these optional courses every other year. So in that setup, so now we're just making the change, we're starting, but we're going to bring in more of these exotic, perhaps, topics that are not as important for everyone, but could be really useful for certain specific people going into specific industry, for instance. So that's one of the plans we have. Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Because I already declare my majors, going to the Honours Statistics program.
Yes.
And then I'm in the 4th year in the next 4 term, and then I have to take 7 course, like 7 more 4,000 level course.
Yes.
And then I know with some 4,000 level courses already like don't open anymore.
Yes.
So so when I check the Aurora for the 4,000 level course in the fall semester, it only have 3 course, and then in the winter it only have 3 course.
Yes.
So you say that like you take the Stat 3690 replay by Stat 4690, right?
If you have done 4690, or if you required this course, you could replace it with 3690. Yes.
Because I like, yeah,
so,
because I don't
okay.
use Stat 4690.
So okay, so this issue that you're raising here is the fact that, so I've seen it before, some other students brought it to my attention. It's a kind of a known issue for us, and I forgot to mention it up front, but yes, students that are in the honors program already, they are expected to complete 7 4,000 level courses. Under the new program, we only require 6 4,000 level courses. Now, so we are also only offering 6 4,000 level courses this year. So then somebody coming into 4th year in their honors program, they are in this situation where they cannot do all the courses they need to do to graduate because of this little problem there. So what we're going to do for you guys is we're going to allow you to use 3150 or 3690, or actually something we didn't think about before, but 3550 as well. These 3 courses, these are the new courses in 3rd year. You could use those as one of your 4,000 level, even though it's not 4,000, will allow you to use this substitution to meet your degree requirements, because otherwise, obviously, as you pointed out, you're missing a course and you don't have an option for it. But we will allow you to use 3150 or 3550 or 3690 as one of the 4,000 stat options towards the honors, if you're already in the honors and you're coming into your 4th year. Does that answer your question?
Yes, because I see the stat 4250 is open for the only for the winter, and
Yes.
then that's pre-required for 4250. That's
Yes.
only the 3690, and then if we take 3690 in the winter,
That
and
we will, okay, that's okay, thank you. That's another issue. So 3690 is offered in the same term as 4250, but 3690 is a prerequisite for it. This year, we will allow students to do both at the same time. So as a co-requisite, we will allow that.
okay,
You will
so
need special permission, but we will allow it. So if you want to do 4550, then you will do 3690 at the same time, and that will be okay. Unless, of course, if you already have 4690, then that's not a problem. We will recognize that as being equivalent.
Do you have any knowledge, or do you need to know that before we come to 4250? Like if we take 3690 and 4250 at the same time.
Yes, we will allow that, and we will understand that many, if not most, students in 4250 will be in that situation. So obviously the prof teaching 4250 will take that into consideration as they are teaching the class.
Okay, so by my understanding, so that means we have two options. Like the first option, we can take start 3690 at the same time with 4250. And another option, that means we can take any start 3150 or start 3500 or start 3690 to substitute by any 4000 level, right?
Yes, so you can substitute one 4000 level course by one of those 3000 level courses we've mentioned. That's one thing. And then the other thing is to take 4250, you do need on paper 3690 done. But if you don't have it, if you're doing it at the same time, we will allow you to take 4250. And then of course, yes, 3690 could count as a 4000 level course for you. That could be the one that you throw in that slot.
Okay, so because I want to replace 3690 by 4690, and can I choose start 3150 or start 3500 to replace any 4000 level? Is that to replace
any of the three that I've mentioned? Yes.
Okay, yeah, I got that.
I mean, and if you have issues like these in the future, feel free to contact a student advisor or myself. We can definitely clear it up. These are easy things for us to clear up.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, another good question from Alex about the number of credit hours of electives in the actuarial math stat joint program. I would point out that when we have, so I'm gonna roll back to this chart there. Okay, so when you see something like this, when you have 3 credit hours of stat options and 9 credit hour of stat options in 4th year and 3rd year, that's why I had this exponent to their footnote. You have to look in the calendar. That's where it says exactly what these courses have to be. So this is not saying that 9 credit hours need to be at the 4000 and then 3 at the 3000. You have choices. So you have to look at the calendar. That's where the details are given, okay? Because this is just, as I was saying earlier, this is one way to complete the chart. But it doesn't say anything as to which courses you have to take.
You can also run, if you're not currently in the fall 2020 program, you can run a what if audit in UMAchieve, and all of the courses that are considered lists, they'll show up in the audit too. So if you're curious of what 9 credit hours of stats options, what those courses are, it'll show up in the audit as well.
So to make sure what they are and what they can be, you have to look at the calendar. I don't remember by heart, but it says clearly in the calendar exactly what they have to be. As to special permissions, so I had another question about that. Yeah, for sure. So the question was, if we need special permission, for instance, to take 3690 and 4250 at the same time, do I contact advisors? What do I do for this? Yeah, contact an advisor, and they will know upfront that it's allowed. And if they don't, we will talk. I will talk to them, and then we will figure it out. So you won't be able. That implies, of course, you won't be able to register tomorrow for these courses. But don't worry. Yeah, we're not running out of rooms. Out of room for those courses. I mean, we've never run out of room in third and fourth year for our courses. That just won't happen. And if we do, like the capacities, especially now this fall being online, the capacities are kind of artificial in some sense. In some of the courses, we can increase them. And in the winter, even in the winter, 4,000 level courses, usually if we are missing a few seats, we will do everything we can to accommodate the students and make sure they can take the class, because we don't want them, 1 year behind just because they couldn't get in or something. So registration issues should not be something that you worry about for those third and fourth year courses. Even if you're stuck in waiting for prerequisite waivers or something, that should not be a big concern. We will figure it out. It will be fine. Whenever we get there, it will be fine. It will work out. So perhaps we can have Leslie say a few things about UM-Achieve at this point.
Sure.
I can see a few other questions coming, but I'm going to just read them and perhaps answer after you're done if I think anything is important and I can't reply easily through chat.
Sure. I'll just be really, really quick. I'm just going to show some examples. Okay, so this is the list of the programs that we have available on UM-Achieve right now. So we have the major co-op, the honors co-op, and the stats actuarial joint honors program. We are currently working on the stats economics, stats math, and stats computer science. I should also mention that if you don't know what UM-Achieve is, it's an automated program check system. So you can run program checks for the current program that you've declared, or you can run it for programs you may be interested in going into. It's not just for science programs, it's for all programs that the university offers. So one thing you do need to know when you're running an audit is your catalog term. So each student has a catalog term, which is the year that they officially entered the program. So it may not be the year that you officially entered the Faculty of Science, but your catalog term is the official year that you declared your program. So you can find it in Aurora when the student has a catalog term of 2019-90, which is fall 2019. Or if you've declared your program, it will show in UM-Achieve. As you can see here, the catalog term is fall 2019. So these are very poor pictures, I apologize, but this is from an example of an audit. So the first here, this select from, this is how the new and the old courses are going to show in any catalog year that you run the audit for. So if you run it for 2015, if you run it for 2020, this is what's going to show. So for example, you can select from Stats 3480 or Stats 2300. So these are courses that have been replaced but have been deemed somewhat equivalent to each other so that they can be used in place of. There are a couple courses, for example, Stats 3450, which was Stats 3470. Those courses are considered new texts, which means they can't be held together for credit. So they're not going to show as an old course, but when you take 3470, or if you've done 3470, I should say, when you run the audit, it will show as matched as in your audit. So that can be a little bit confusing. So if you see that pop up, or if you have questions, please feel free to contact us. The second picture here is an example of an audit. So this student has already done stats 3,800, 3,400. So it's not going to show that it's also equivalent to stats 2,800. It's just going to show that you've done stats 3,400, and then you'll see that stats 2,800 is not on the list here because you've completed the requirements. So this still shows a list of required courses that are needed. As you can see, stats 4,200 is still on the list, and that course has been deleted. So that's something that an advisor would have to put a substitution on for you when you're running your audit in Achieve. Just so you know, we don't put substitutions officially on the audit until a grade has been received for the course. So if you've been approved for a substitution for stats 4,200, once your grade is up, we can load the substitution so that your audit shows correctly. So the next pictures are, this is from a 2018 audit, so it's still the old program. Just an example of what the select from list will look like, so you can see the OR statements again of courses. This is at 6 credit hours of math courses that are required. As Dr. LeBlanc said, we can add more of the new courses that were approved for the new program. Something like that would need to be a substitution that an advisor can do. There's still the area of application in the 2018. So this is, your old audit is still going to look old, or like the old program, but it's going to have some of the new courses listed in it. That's kind of all I had to show. I know I kind of went through it really fast, so if anybody has questions, feel free to ask. Again, these are just pictures from like the 2019 program and earlier. If you want to run a what-if audit for the 2020 program, just to kind of see how that looks in Achieve, you can do that as well. Does anybody have any questions? Someone asked when the joint programs will be available. We are working very hard to try and get them available as soon as possible. Sometimes there are behind the scene issues when we do the program, so we've been testing and trying to get them up. So I'm hopeful that maybe by September they'll be up. So if you are in one of the joint programs that are not available, it's best to be following the academic calendar and talking to an advisor about your program.
I did receive another question that I can briefly answer. Somebody asked if they did 4690 already. Could they substitute that for 4200? Yes. If it's already done, you could apply for the substitution into Achieve, and that would work nicely for sure. I don't see other questions at this time. I don't have myself anything else to add.
I think I'm good too. Thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully we were able to answer all or some of your questions at least. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact us. And then, like I said earlier, this is being recorded and it will be on the website hopefully soon, as well as the program charts as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.